Talent matters, but not in the way most people think. Talent helps you perform. Leverage determines how far that performance travels. This distinction is subtle, but it explains why equally talented people end up with radically different outcomes. It explains why effort plateaus, why careers stall, why some results feel disproportionate to the work behind them. Talent is linear, leverage is exponential. And systems overwhelmingly reward the exponential. Most people are taught to focus on developing talent, skills, credentials, experience, mastery. This makes sense because talent is visible, it's measurable, it feels fair. You can see improvement, and improvement feels like progress, but talent has a ceiling. No matter how skilled you are, your output is still constrained by time, attention, and energy. You can only work so many hours. You can only apply yourself in so many places. Past a certain point, additional effort produces diminishing returns. Leverage changes the equation. Leverage allows the same unit of effort to produce results far beyond what direct labor would allow. It decouples input from output. One decision, one action, one piece of work can propagate across systems without additional effort. That's why leverage consistently outperforms talent over long time horizons. This isn't about intelligence or worth, it's about mechanics. Systems don't reward who tries hardest. They reward what scales. Talent scales poorly. Leverage scales extremely well. This is why the most impactful outcomes in modern economies don't come from people doing things better, but from people doing things once and letting systems repeat the work for them. Think about where large outcomes actually come from. Software, media, capital allocation, organizational design, ownership, distribution. These are not expressions of personal talent in the narrow sense. They are expressions of leverage. A talented individual can outperform others locally. A leveraged individual can outperform entire groups globally. This is not because they're more capable, it's because they're better positioned. Leverage is not evenly distributed, and it never has been. But modern systems amplify this imbalance. The more scalable the environment, the more leverage dominates. In a world where output can be copied, transmitted, automated, or multiplied at near zero cost, talent alone becomes insufficient as a differentiator. This is why work harder advice increasingly feels disconnected from reality. Hard work improves local performance. Leverage determines systemic reach. To understand this clearly, you need to stop thinking in terms of effort and start thinking in terms of force multiplication. A lever doesn't change how strong you are. It changes how much your strength can move. This is the core metaphor. A small input, applied at the right point, can move something far larger than the input itself. The lever doesn't care how talented you are. It cares where you stand and where you apply force. Systems operate the same way. There are 4 primary forms of leverage that consistently dominate outcomes in modern environments. The first is capital. Capital allows stored effort to be deployed repeatedly without additional labor. Once capital exists, it works independently of the person who created it. It doesn't tire, it doesn't negotiate, it compounds. Capital is leverage because it converts time-bound effort into time-independent output. The second is code. Code allows instructions to scale infinitely at near zero marginal cost. One correct implementation can execute millions of times. Code doesn't reward persistence, it rewards correctness and placement. This is why small teams with the right technical leverage can outperform large organizations with far more talent. The third is media. Media allows ideas, narratives, and information to propagate without proportional effort. One piece of content can reach thousands, millions, or more, without requiring the creator to be present for each interaction. Media is leverage over attention. The fourth is people. Organizational leverage allows coordination. One decision can direct the effort of many. This isn't about hierarchy in the moral sense. It's about control over flow. Where decisions are made determines where outcomes concentrate. All four forms share the same property. They separate effort from output. Talent alone cannot do that. This is why highly talented people often feel stuck. They keep improving themselves, but their environment doesn't change. Their output increases incrementally, but the system absorbs the improvement without amplifying it. They become more useful, but not more leveraged. Usefulness and leverage are not the same thing. Systems will gladly extract usefulness while limiting leverage. In fact, this is often the optimal arrangement from the system's perspective. High performers without leverage increase output without increasing bargaining power. This is why talent often plateaus inside institutions. Institutions optimize for predictability. Leverage introduces asymmetry. Asymmetry shifts power, so institutions tend to distribute talent while concentrating leverage. This is not malicious, it's structural. The system doesn't ask who is best, it asks what preserves stability. Leverage disrupts stability. Talent enhances it. That's why leverage is controlled. Once you see this, many career frustrations make sense. Promotions slow not because talent disappears, but because leverage thresholds are tightly guarded. Advancement is less about performance and more about access to leverage. This is also why advice focused solely on skill development feels incomplete. Skills matter, but only when paired with leverage. Talent without leverage is replaceable. Leverage without talent is inefficient. But talent plus leverage is dominant. The mistake is thinking talent leads to leverage automatically. It doesn't. Leverage is positional. It depends on where you are in the system, not how good you are at your role. This is why two equally skilled people can diverge dramatically over time. One accumulates leverage, the other accumulates responsibilities. One compounds, the other exhausts. This divergence is slow and subtle at first. It becomes obvious only in hindsight. Most people don't notice leverage until it's already working. That's because leverage is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like effort. It feels like things moving with less resistance. When outcomes start arriving faster than expected, leverage is usually involved. The practical implication is not to abandon skill development. It's to treat talent as a prerequisite, not a strategy. Talent gets you into the game. Leverage determines how the game plays out. This requires a different question, not how can I get better, but where does leverage exist here? Where can effort be multiplied instead of repeated? Where does output detach from hours? Where do small decisions create large downstream effects? Unto those are leverage points. Once you start looking for them, you see them everywhere. And once you see them, it becomes hard to unsee how much conventional advice ignores them. Leverage is uncomfortable because it exposes asymmetry. It reveals that outcomes are not evenly distributed by effort. That feels unfair. But fairness is not how systems allocate results. Systems allocate results based on structure. Leverage is structure. This is why long-term strategy matters more than short-term optimization. Optimizing talent inside a low-leverage position yields diminishing returns. Moving into a higher leverage position, even temporarily, can change the entire trajectory. This is also why patience matters. Leverage often takes time to build, but once established, it accelerates. Talent compounds linearly. Leverage compounds non-linearly. Over long enough horizons, non-linear effects dominate. This isn't pessimistic, it's clarifying. Once you understand this, effort stops feeling wasted. You become more selective. You stop applying force everywhere and start applying it where it moves the most. That's not laziness, that's strategy. Leverage doesn't replace talent. It makes talent matter. And in systems that scale, leverage beats talent every time.